And welcome back to coverage of Grand Prix Providence. We've just given the players a signal to start. I'm Marshall Sutcliffe in the booth with Jacob Van Lunen. We're in round 6. We have one of the true super teams here on the left-hand side of your screen with Shuhei Nakamura, Martin Juza, and Ben Stark playing against Jarvis Yu, Bing Luke, and Steve Rubin, a very solid team themselves. Ooh, and a Cloudfin Raptor. First turn for Shuhei. One of the better turn 1 plays in the format. If you can back it up by a solid curve out, that thing can get insane. Sure enough, Crawl Warrior is going to evolve the Raptor, get in there for 1. That's an important step. If Shuhei has a 3-drop that can get that evolve going, then things can get out of hand pretty quickly. Jarvis Yu plays Kingpin's Pet on his turn 3, passes the turn back. Right now it can block the Raptor, but if there's an evolve in the future here, then it will not be able to anymore. It looks like it's going to get inaction injunctioned here, though. Let's see if Shuhei hits his 3rd land drop as he attacks for 3. He does, but it's a Guild Gate, and he passes the turn back. It looks like Shuhei, at least so far, is just straight. Nope, there's a mountain in his hand right there, so Rug seems to be the order of the day. One of my favorite 3-color combinations in Limited, and my favorite 3-color combination in Magic.
Yeah, I mean, easily my favorite 3-color combination in this Limited format.
Yeah, mine too. I keep going back to it.
I keep going back to it over and over again.
You get some sweet stuff in the 3rd pack. All right, so attack with a Kingpin's Pet, and Shuhei very quietly reminds his opponent that that has been detained and cannot attack. The Scopa Guildmage is going to be the follow-up play there. And there's also going to be an Extort paid for by Jarvis Yu, so that's going to drop Shuhei down to 19 and bring Jarvis back up a little bit. All right, here's a Nakamura. That is going to evolve Cloudfin Raptor, and both creatures are going to be attacking. It looks like Jarvis is going to block the Crawl Warrior here and just make a trade.
Yeah, I mean, he's falling pretty far behind. He needs to do that.
Okay. He does, in fact, make that trade. Takes 2 damage in the air as that Kingpin's Pet. It can block now. Problem is just chumping that 2/3 Cloudfin Raptor as it is now outclassed.
And here we're seeing the real power of Cloudfin Raptor. You know, a 2/3 flyer is something that you'd be very, very happy to pay 3 mana for.
Yes.
Shuhei, you know, only paid 1 mana for it, and it actually pinged his opponent earlier.
That's right.
Twice.
And it's threatening to be even bigger than a 2/3. That's the thing does not stop evolving. It's starting at a lowly 0/1 means that you can, you know, cast 3 creatures and get evolves. Gateway Shade here for Jarvis Yu, plus there's an Extort paid for, again from the Kingpin's Pet, and no attack thanks to Nakamura and its reach.
Yeah, that gate left untapped is going to make that Gateway Shade big enough to hold back that Nakamura.
That's right. All right. Thrashing Moss Dog. The Moss Dog Millionaire is going to evolve both creatures, and it's going to get that Cloudfin Raptor in there for 3 damage now as it's a 3/4. Poor Kingpin's Pet can't really do anything, though the Gateway Shade can start applying pressure over to Shuhei's side and allow Jarvis to use his mana in a pretty efficient way. He's basically going to be able to tap all of his mana for the rest of the game if he wants. Okay, Sin Collector is going to hit Shuhei, who has no eligible spells in hand. He's got a Zerta, Swine, and 2 lands. That's good information for Jarvis to have, but it's not necessarily good news, as those are Zerta Swine's a pretty good one here.
It continues to evolve that Raptor, and suddenly that Raptor is a veritable angel.
That's right.
It's on the verge of dragon.
It is. It is. It is. And that's going to prompt an attack with all of his creatures. Now that Gateway Shade can become a 3/3 thanks to the gate there. And Jarvis is examining his options. 4/5 Cloudfin Raptor coming in. I believe that Jarvis has a Launch Party in his hand.
Yeah, he has Launch Party and Ubulsar Gatekeepers,
okay,
but only 1 gate in play.
So he wants to leave himself at least 1 creature back, but he also wants to make sure that he does some reasonable blocking here. If he double blocks here, then they're both going to die. Yeah, and they do, and he takes 7 damage in the process, bringing him down to 7. Now that Gateway Shade is going to be able to block, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 6. It will be able to block the Zerta Swine and eat it, potentially. The problem being that the other 2 creatures for Shuhei are lethal, so that's not really a long-term play here. Is that a Dead Bridge chant in his hand?
Yeah, he can't even cast it.
No.
And I mean, it doesn't do anything the turn it comes into play, so
No.
Not the greatest.
Not the greatest
step.
card. It will grind out a late game for you. But, you know, I got to say, Jake, I've had that in draft before, and I got myself into a position where I couldn't cast it because I would just mill myself out. You know,
Deborah Chan,
you only have 40 cards to start with.
I've played it a few times in Limited. I've had some decks where it was very, very good, and I've had some decks where it was very, very bad.
Yes, I agree. All right, so it looks like Shuhei's got mana lined up to scavenge his Thrashing Moss Dog onto something here. He's going to put it on the Zertos Swine and attack with everything. That makes the Zertos Swine lethal itself, and we see a block and then a launch party, so Shuhei's going to take 2, and Jarvis is going to take 3 damage here and drop him down to 4. Still tons of pressure on Jarvis Yu here, and he has got to come up with a removal spell. He doesn't find one. He can play a blocker, but it's not going to be enough as he scoops up his permanents, and we say Shuhei Nakamura, take a quick one. And if that is correct, Martin Juza and Ben Stark also both up a game in a match.
Over here.
Jeez.
That was a very, very fast game. That was a turn 1 Cloudfin Raptor game.
It was.
And both of his teammates won their games faster.
Yeah.
You know?
You got to wonder what's going on those other 2 tables, and we'll bring that to you once we know, but that can't be good news for the Luke U. Rubin side of the table here. And we see some sideboard strategy here from Shuhei.
Yeah, Shuhei bringing in, is it Status Caster, it looks like? Static Caster? One of the most confusing card names for me, easily.
Okay, the way I do it is Stata Caster.
Static Caster?
Yeah. Because there's only one C in it.
Static Aster? It's like a type of snake.
So it looks like Jarvis's deck is trying to be more of a slowdown. I mean, when you're running a Dead Bridge Chant, your idea of a good game is one that goes long.
Yes.
So he wants to trade, he wants to remove stuff, and he certainly doesn't want to be facing down 4 or 5 flyers on turn 5.
Yeah, the turn 1 Cloudfin Raptor draw is about the worst nightmare for a deck like Jarvis Hughes. He's tons of spot removal, these like dirtily mid-rangey creatures like Ubulsar Gatekeepers and Gateway Shade.
All right, let's take a look at Ben Stark versus Steve Rubin. Stark on the left-hand side has really very solid Syndicate of Tithes on turn 2. Nothing from Steve Rubin after 3 lands. And it looks like there's going to be an extort paid for from Concordia Pegasus and then an attack. No response from Steve as he just takes 3 this turn.
Concordia Pegasus always works super hard.
I suppose.
I like that card.
All right, Seller of Songbirds plus an extort. Ben Stark, he loves the Orzhov deck. I remember at the Pro Tour Gatecrash, he was a big fan of it and drafted it. In fact, in one of the drafts, he considered it the most powerful, or at least his favorite of the guilds there. But he said there's others he'd play. All right, so Wrecking Ogre is the first play of the game for Steve Rubin, but he's way behind here. Wrecking Ogre going a long way to help stabilize, though. 3/3 double strike means that the ground game's going to get short up pretty quickly. Still going to be taking 2 in the air, though. Also, if there's any removal spell here for Ben Stark, he could take 2, 3, 4, 5 damage and put Steve behind pretty well. I see that he's got a Tenement Crasher in his hand. So we see Ben has paused here to help out his teammate, or maybe just make sure that everything's going the way that it should. He's kind of getting reacclimated to where he's at in the game. And
ooh, that's a good one.
Yes.
It's a very good one.
All right, so 2 damage in the air. So the Wrecking Ogre holding off at least some. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Crypt Gas.
Yeah.
And there's also an extort trigger paid there, and now Ben's going to have access to 2, 4, 6, 7, 8 mana and 2 extorters next turn. He might not need to attack much for the rest of this game. Sure, he's going to be sending in with the Bird and the Pegasus as long as there's no flyer to get in the way, but is that a Steeple Rock in hand there for Steve Rubin?
It looks like it.
Yeah, so he would be basically fully stabilized at that point, and Ben would be reliant on extorting his way to the victory or just finding removal. So tons of mana for Ben Stark at his disposal. I believe he's got another Concordia Pegasus in hand.
Yeah, and I mean, we may just be looking at the post-sideboard configuration of his deck, too.
Absolutely.
Because, I mean, his opponent is the Burrows deck, and
Yes.
we're seeing a ton of 1/3s on Ben's side of the table.
That's right.
And, I mean, Concordia Pegasus, before I talked about how it worked so hard, but, I mean, I don't main deck that card 100% of the time.
Yeah.
But I'm very happy to sideboard it in against the aggressive two-color decks.
Yeah, absolutely.
Super good.
Yeah, they play a Riot Piker or something. Here you go. All right, let's see what Ben has in store for this turn. He's counting up his mana, seeing what he can do here. Again, he's got his opponent halfway there, down to 10 life. And he says, yeah, there's another 1/3.
And he's double extorting with both of them.
black card, and he's got
So it
enough
puts his
mana
opponent
to
down
both.
to
6.
4? Or, yeah, to 6, I'm sorry. Extorts 4/4.
Wow, Gideon, Champion of Justice off the top for Steve Rubin, but is it going to be enough here? As basically any spell for Ben Stark could be the victory, depending on how things go. He can attack with everything, and play some spells and attack with everything. But it looks
raid.
the massive raid is going to take out the Crypt Gas. Okay, so that's a start. So he doesn't have quite enough mana to play a Gideon as well. But it does take out one of the extorters. Now all of a sudden the Syndic of Tides becomes sort of the focal point for Steve Rubin on his side of the board. He's relatively stable at 6 life, though if Ben Stark feels like it, he can also just move in. And, if he can get an extort trigger, bring him down to 5, attack with everything, hit him for 4, and have lethal the next turn potentially. But it's a risky play if he goes for it. So let's see what Ben wants to do here. It's hard to believe that he's going to be able to extort his way to the win now, 6 spells later. Oh, Death's Approach. Now I don't think there's any creatures in Rubin's yard yet, though. And then he just attacks with everything. So he's doing exactly what we mentioned. He's going to play out a spell. It happens to be a Death's Approach that doesn't do anything currently, and he's just going to send in everybody. So he's going to lose his Syndic of Tithes. He's going to lose one of his Concordia Pegasus, and then he's going to bring Steve down to 1 and make him come up with something. A life gain, 2 more creatures. Ben's at a healthy 28 life, so even though there is a double striker on the board, he's not worried about a crackback.
Yeah, normally when there's a Wrecking Ogre on the table, you have to play pretty conservatively because it can kill you out of nowhere, but...
That's right. All right, so it looks like no other plays here for Ben Stark, so Steve Rubin is facing down 4 creatures, and he needs to find a couple of creatures to get in the way here, or a way to gain some life. Gideon's not going to do anything in this situation. I see he's got a combat trick. He's also got a 6-drop with Tenement Crasher. He's got 2 combat tricks in hand. This is the most awkward possible time to have those. They're also not the kind of combat trick you want with Wrecking Ogre
if
right now.
If he had a 5-drop in the aerial maneuver, it'd be quite good. Oh no, I guess he'd still be dead.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's...
So it looks like he's just going to pass the
what.
turn back, and he just says attack with everything, and Steve Rubin extends the hand. So that's the first match that goes to the Juza, Nakamura, Ben Stark team, as Ben Stark dispatches Steve Rubin in 2 very quick games, really. Let's take a look at one of the other matches. This looks like Shuhei. Shuhei also up a game. Our top match is Martin Juza and Bing Luke. They're tied up at a game. These guys are playing very quickly. All right, so it looks like Toil for Jarvis Yu is going to help restock his hand here. And he does seem to be on the beatdowns. Ooh, is it Staticaster comes down and is going to take out a 5-drop? That's got to feel good if you're Shuhei.
It's pretty nice. And that card is so good here, too, because, I mean, it lets all of his guys trade up.
Yes.
And he's against this, junk-colored deck that has things like Jailbreaker.
4 toughness stuff, yeah. Yeah, that was Jarvis's only real threat that he had going at the moment. So let's see what Shuhei has. He's got a Beetle Form Mage, and he is going to use the Sage's Rodenizen to mill his opponent. He's also going to get a counter which he put on the Beetle Form Mage. It looks like that's from the Sage's Row Denizen, so a little double Denizen.
He has the Ivy Lane and Sage's Row Denizen. All those streets and their denizens.
Thankfully, he's not running the red one. Not a great card.
Not a very good card, no.
But the two he has are fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Not the worst.
All right, there's a Syndicate Enforcer there for Jarvis Yu.
A 3/3 that also grows the Beetle Form Mage, most likely.
The Denizen, maybe it's going to grow something else. Shuhei looks like he's looking at his other creatures and deciding where he wants to put this counter.
Yeah, when he puts it on the Ivy Lane Denizen, then any of his creatures have trading potential, so that's pretty good. But I mean, putting it on the Beetle Form Mage does make the Beetle Form Mage have 6 power, and his opponent is at 18 with no flyers.
Okay.
So
you could see a 3-turn clock.
Yeah, you could see that.
Looks
that
like he decided not
best.
to, though. He's got Runner's Bane in his hand. There's a proper Centaur.
That's the Centaur we like to see.
Runner's Bane on the 1/2 Death Touch. Thrill Kill Assassin. And I think I just saw Ben Stark's hand say, hey, make sure you pump your Beetle Form Mage, maybe? Does he not even need to here? So trades are being offered. If the Centaur gets blocked by the Ogre Jailbreaker, then it's just going to get pinged by the Staticaster. I see that there's 3 lands in hand for Jarvis Yu, so he has just nothing going on here.
I don't know who got it, but...
It seems pretty rough for Jarvis at this point.
It seems very rough. We could be seeing Shuhei, Nakamura, Ben Stark, and Martin Juza advancing to 6-0 here potentially. Not on this particular attack, but this game could do it. Also,
it's not particularly surprising to see them at 6-0.
No, it's not. 3 of the best limited players on the planet, and they're teamed up together. Right now, Shuhei has to decide if he wants to pump the Beetle Form Mage. He does. So take 5 Jarvis from the Beetle Form Mage, trade. And let's see what Jarvis can rip off the top here and try to get himself out of this mess. Is it a Gateway Shade? Confirmed Gateway Shade. He's got 3 gates and 2 swamps available, so that Gateway Shade is going to be absolutely huge. So Beetle Form Mage goes to work doing exactly what it does. Hitting him for 5 in the air. Cannot be blocked currently. And there's a Drudge Beetle, which is going to pump up the Ivy Lane Denizen one more as well.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, you just want to like diversify where you're putting the counters. The Beetle Form Mage is going to be a 2-turn clock either way you cut it.
Another gate for Jarvis Yu. And unfortunately, while the Gateway Shade is doing good work holding the ground down, that Beetle Form Mage is going to make short work of Jarvis here. He's got 1 more turn to answer it. If he doesn't answer that card, put up something that can block, the game's going to be over. Was that what I thought it was? Was it a launch party?
That's not the worst card here.
It's excellent. He can get rid of that useless Thrill Kill Assassin, and he can take out the Beetle Form Mage.
You know, at this point, I think Shuhei can just play another green creature, pump the Drudge Beetle, and then attack with everything, right?
Yeah, does he have a green creature? He does.
I think he does.
He's got a Drake-Wing Krasis. That's going to pump the Beetle. Now let's see if Shuhei does go ahead and attack with the team. He does indeed. I we see Jarvis kind of dejectedly pick up his hand like, well, I was going to get you, but now I guess I'm just dead. And he extends the hand, and we see one of the super teams out here this weekend extend to 6-0.
Yeah, I think Shuhei is saying that he should have put the extra counter on the Beetle Form Mage. That's what they're talking about now.
Why is that?
Because they keep pointing at it. Ben keeps